Hey, have you ever woken up in the morning and then just been like, fuck? Well, me too. Let's talk about it. First, let's get some breakfast.
It's faded. Oh, we're 8:30. So I jumped up, let hang out, hurried up to the shower and everything, and then got out the door.
Yeah. I know that breakfast is the most important meal of the day was originally an ad campaign brought by Kellogg's to sell their cereal. But I do genuinely feel better as a human being after I've eaten something towards the start of my day. I'm also hypoglycemic, so do with that what you will. Mental health is a doozy of a topic, I feel like, because no one is ever really like super enthusiastic about wanting to talk about how depressed they are. Because I'll be honest, a lot of people just straight up don't care, right? Especially as somebody who's been like presenting male my entire life, it's like just presenting as a dude. It's always been, oh, just do it, just get it together, take a nap, you'll be fine, get over it. Well, I'm here to say, get fucked. Like, I'm closing on 30, which in hindsight is not like a terribly long life, but I've had a lot of like just bullshit situations to deal with throughout my entire life, and it's made it feel egregiously long. Like, I tend to not feel like I deserve a lot of good things to happen in my life, like this motorcycle. I tend to beat myself up and second guess a lot of my choices that I make for myself. And like, the last few years since losing my stepdad, like, I feel like I've done next to nothing but bust my ass to try and make things happen with such little avail. Like, people like on my Facebook or like closer friends will know that like the last like couple weeks I've been dealing with like a really shitty landlord situation. Like, my landlord likes to do major maintenance to the house without telling literally anybody. And like, our stuff gets like, you know, wrecked and moved around and nobody can sleep. And he hires like the cheapest people that he can get that, oh, it's an absolute mess. I'm not going to get too into it because I don't want to face a legal repercussion for that. But hey, so like, yeah, I've just had a really rough life in a lot of senses. I don't really know how deep I want to get into it, but I feel like when I'm on a bike, I really don't care all that much. Like, I feel good. Like, I forgot what it felt like to just kind of like not really care. There's a sense of freedom on a motorcycle that you don't get in any other form of transportation. Like, I feel so disconnected from like social media and people and problems and family and all these issues and like and people that just cause issues in my life. Like, I don't have like a Senna or a Cardo or any of those talking headsets. I don't have like headphones or anything in. So when I'm on the bike, it's just literally me and bike. Be careful, the ground is still wet. It rained this morning. It's nice. I feel like motorcycles have been very positive and helping out my mental health overall. Like, I don't, like, mind you, they are not a substitute for therapy. Like, I'm currently in the process of enlisting a new therapist. I went to therapy for 12 years as a child for a small list of traumatic circumstances that I don't really feel like putting on the internet. And then I went to therapy again for a little bit in 2018 after my stepfather passed. And the partner I had at the time was being a terrible person during that time. So like I'm definitely like used to therapy. I'm not afraid of it. Like I recognize it as a very good thing. Yeah, it's just hard. Thankfully, in the last couple of years, since the big sick, like, it's been a lot easier to find people who will do like telehealth and Zoom calls for therapy and all these other things. So like that's great, and I think that's a wonderful thing. But like, I don't know, after I've worked all night, the last thing I want to do is drive anywhere. And I feel like, I don't know if this happens to me, when I sit in like a therapist's office or a doctor's office, I feel trapped and I just want to get out of there. I spend so much time just being like, oh, I wish I could leave. But anywho, yeah, I feel like motorcycles have been incredibly freeing, as well as the last little bit of being able to just like talk to you guys. This is kind of like a journal in a way. A journal that I plaster all over the internet for people to see. Why is the ground drier here than it was like that whole other way? But yeah, back before I stopped riding, like, motorcycles were such a big part of my life. Like the freedom and like the camaraderie of like being able to have like friends that you could call for just about anything. And mind you, I've never been in clubs, so like that's not really the type of camaraderie or brotherhood that I know about personally. I only know about that from like friends who have been in them. But yeah, I feel like the friends I've met like on motorcycles have been some of like the best and closest people that I've had. Like, and even like when I just go to like say a car meet or just like some other thing where I might see a motorcycle, I'll have such great conversations with these people, and even if I don't know them, and I'll meet like the coolest people. I don't know anyone there. Like I went to a event at Lucille's cafe in Ledyard maybe like a month or so ago. It was called Bikes and Brews. It was just a little breakfast thing aimed at, you know, a little motorcycle meetup, kind of like a Cars and Coffee for those of you that are privy to that sort of thing. And I met some of the coolest people. Like even if like, you know, we rode different types of motorcycles or like anything, it was really cool being able to connect with people in ways that otherwise I probably wouldn't have ever like talked to these people like just out on the street. And I feel the same way about cars for the most part. I don't know, but yeah, being able to connect to people that I probably otherwise wouldn't have spoken to, like if I saw them at some random non-motorcycle or car event, I think that's really cool. Like somebody I met through motorcycling prior helped me get the job that I'm in. And that job has allowed me to be able to like live comfortably and get my stuff together, which is great. Motorcycles has been such an important and big part of my life since I got on them. Like, it gives you time to just be with yourself and think, which I think is really cool and really important. Like, even when driving, right, we're all just so sucked up by the world around us, and like, in the worst ways, like, you know, the news and social media and like podcasts and music and all this stuff. Like, I love music, right, but like, and all these other like worldly things that just remind us like how much like people in society can really suck sometimes. And it's really good to be able to get a break from that and just go live. Right, people talk about the world getting so much worse, and in some ways I agree, but in some ways I disagree. I really do think a lot of it is the fact that we're so much more exposed to it. Like, we have the entirety of the world's information at our fingertips, good and bad. Well, the advent of technology, I think, is phenomenal in being able to do all these cool things. But man, sometimes the news is just a bummer. But back to personal mental health, right? Like, I find it really hard to do a lot of tasks some days. Some days it's just easier to just lay in bed and doom scroll through various social media apps and just try and distract myself from how much of a pain in the dick life can be. Like, I feel like I'm in a cycle where all I really do is, you know, work and sleep and do schoolwork. And I know there's a light at the end of this tunnel. Things get better. I'm gonna hit goals, and I'm gonna eventually, you know, buy a house and move on with my life. But man, it's nice to be able to just be free, you know? It's nice to not have to think about these sorts of things. It's nice to not have to worry about rent or shitty landlords or credit card payments. Or, oh, what in my apartment building is going to fall apart today that I have to pay more money to have to, like, fix the consequences of. Like, my Civic, like, my driveway, I literally cannot have a low car. Not because it's hard to get in and out of with a low car, like, I've done that plenty, but because the parking lot, like, driveway thing just floods so much to where, like, if you put anything low in there, like, it's just, you're just gonna be driving through water. Like, there's stuff on my Civic that's rusted from it. And that Civic had such minimal rust when I bought it. I'm the second owner of that car. Yeah, I feel like the last several years it's just been like trying to fix and take care of things that I don't have a whole lot of control over. And I'm not gonna act like that I haven't done things for myself, right? Like, I don't have cheap hobbies, and it's kind of one of my downfalls. I need to be able to take a break or a vacation. I'm hoping to be able to take, like, my first actual vacation next year. I'm not sure what I want to do. Like, one idea that comes to mind is, like, load my bike up in my truck and then just drive somewhere. Like, I'm thinking Florida. I have some family down there. I have a couple of friends down there, so I think that might be cool. It's like, I ride around I've been riding around the same areas for like 8 years. I don't think I've been on a motorcycle outside of my state of Connecticut. So that might be something worth checking out. I don't know, I want to leave the country. Like, check out somewhere else. Like, I'm not trying to be poor me, but I didn't grow up with the opportunities. Like, I've never been to Disney. The farthest I've been away from my home is Scranton, Pennsylvania, and that's about a 4-hour drive. And I'll tell you, a lot of you might think Scranton is just kind of like some podunk ass area, but like, the amount of wonder I was filled with just seeing somewhere else, I thought it was the coolest thing. And then you have channels like, okay, Gears and Gasoline. They do road trips in like cars that you probably shouldn't be doing road trips in. Like, they'll do modified cars. They did one where it was like a race car versus like a Tesla, just across the continent, and that was really cool. And then obviously Shade Tree, and more recently Shea Lisi. Like, Shade Tree did 4,000 miles across the country twice, and only one of them on a reasonable motorcycle to do that with. Like, just, I live vicariously through these channels, just driving and seeing all these amazing sights. Like, I went to Salem, Massachusetts for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and I'll tell you, that was super cool. Like, I hadn't had an experience like that in a very long time. It was like, man, I get so stuck in my own head about not being able to do things. Like, look, I saw My Chemical Romance play the night before I went to Salem, and I had the tickets for 3 years, and I feel like I wasn't even able to enjoy myself. I'm still thrilled that I finally got to check off a bucket list band, but I just haven't been able to just enjoy things and do things. Like, even getting on the bike feels like it's such a chore sometimes, when I'd rather just sit in my house and play the same GameCube games that I've been playing for 20 years. It's easy to get stuck inside yourself. So, like, every day that I, wake up and I accomplish something, and I, go to bed, I at least try and think of or plan something, or at least do one thing that gets me level. Because I don't really get to have a whole lot of time where I can just think. I'm always working or doing some schoolwork. And truthfully, I never would have went to college had my job not been paying for it. Because I don't qualify for any grants or scholarships, and I don't want to take out student loans. Because, like, I already have a solid bit of debt that I'd like to pay off soon, so that way I can get a house. But so the things are like, I really don't even know what I would do with the degree. Like, I chose a business degree, and I hate business. I hate thinking about business. But I want to be able to have a well-rounded resume so I can go just about anywhere. Like, because I have loads of technical experience, right? Yeah, so sometimes it's perfectly valid to have really rough days where you can't do anything. It's perfectly valid to have a day where you just don't leave your house, where, hell, you don't even leave your bed. You're just chill for the day. It's perfectly acceptable and okay to take mental health days. And anyone that tells you otherwise, they can get fucked. They don't have to live in your head. You do. Do what's best for you at the end of the day. For me, yeah, I absolutely have those days. And days where I feel well enough, I usually try and at least go do something. Anything that might make me feel good. Like, I might take a ride and go get myself something to eat. Or even if I just complete a task, I try and, if I can, just do something that'll fulfill me a little bit. Ooh, a heat truck. Because at the end of the day, your brain is the most important muscle in your body. Mental health is health, period. And don't ever forget that. But it's tough to feel good when you feel like everything's snowballed on top of you. Like I said, growing up, I didn't have a whole lot of opportunity to be able to, you know, go. Like, I've never been on road trips with my family. Like, I've never been farther than Scranton, Pennsylvania. Like, never got to go to Disney or go on class trips. Grew up without a pot to piss in a lot of senses. Like, I've lived in 22 different places around my county that I can, like, remember. Like, I've slept on floors and in closets and couch hopped, and I never had the opportunities to do a lot of these things. I have a lot of people, like, you know, and in good conscience being like, hey, why don't you buy a house and stop dealing with the landlords? Like, I've had to, like, pay rent and exist, and I've been living on my own for the last, like, going on 10 years. So it's tough to be able to just go buy a house when it's kind of difficult to save. Like, I didn't get to, like, the last person that owns a property in my family was my grandfather. And he's been passed away for about over 20 years now. Oblivious sometimes, yeah. However, envy is ugly, and I don't want to do that. Like, I've never had, like, nobody bought my first car. I bought my first car. Nobody, I've bought my parents' cars because we were hard up, and I started to do well for myself. And, like, my mother, I love my mother. You know, she's just disabled and can't really do much for herself. And the state is an absolute joke and only gives her like $800 a month of disability. Nobody can live on that. Like, if people want to be active about Connecticut legislation, that's something to absolutely complain about, because, like, what is that? So, yeah, I pay for her living expenses on top of mine. Like, I pay for her car and all this other stuff. So I really don't get a whole lot of, like, the wiggle room to be able to do things. And then when I do things for myself, I just feel immeasurable guilt about them, like I shouldn't have done it. Where the fuck is Westminster? And you shouldn't have to feel guilt about doing the things you enjoy or that mean something to you. But again, I know it'll pass. I know things will work out. inflation and gas prices in the economy certainly do not help. And I'm fortunate to have a good enough job where I can still afford to live like with reasonable comfort without roommates and stuff like that. I just want a vacation and a break. Fortunately, this upcoming year, 2023, my vacation time gets re-upped. I also gain, I gain another week of vacation time, and now with open enrollment at my job, I can buy a week of vacation time. So my vacation time is going to double, and I'm going to have like all my extra sick time, and I get my educational PTO. So I'll be able to like go somewhere. And I'm really thinking about like, I don't know, throwing my bike in the back of my truck and maybe driving to Florida or something. I don't know, I've never been. I have some family down there. I have a couple friends down there, and I'm told that it's really nice to ride down there on some of the like, you know, the big coastal roads. So I'm thinking that might be a cool change of scenery for a little bit. I've been riding this area for like 8 years. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not to say that I don't love it. But I want to experience the world a little bit. I would love to be able to just hop on this thing and just go on a cross-country trip. I would love to throw a dart at like a map of the US and just be like, all right, I'm going there, you know? Knowing my luck, it's gonna wind up in the Atlantic Ocean, because I'm not good at darts in the slightest. But man, in the interim, it's just like, damn, you know? And sometimes just knowing to keep your nose to the grindstone isn't really for everybody, and that's perfectly okay and perfectly valid. Do whatever works for you to feel better. Do whatever works for you to help progress yourself mentally and emotionally to be able to continue on. Yeah, so I think that's kind of where I'll leave it off today. Not a whole lot of rhyme or reason in this video. Kind of want to get some things off my chest.
Sometime later.
What's going on? I just wanted to throw this little tidbit towards the end of the video. I am in no way, shape, or form like intending this video to be a cry for help. The things I have going on in my life are things I can definitely handle. I've had much worse go on throughout my life. I am just exhausted, as I'm sure a lot of you can really empathize with how the world's been lately. Like, it's egregiously expensive to live. Jobs don't really pay much unless you have crazy amounts of experience or land in good companies. You know, gas and groceries and electricity and the whole 9 yards just racks up, just absolutely draining your bank accounts. Like, it seems like every time you turn on the news or open up social media, there's just news of some crazy thing going on that absolutely sucks. Like, I get it. Like, the world is kind of a shit show right now. But I just want you to check in on yourself. I want you to check in on your friends and make sure your friends are all right. And if you are in that predicament, I want you to reach out. I know it could be the hardest thing, and like, I'm not going to sit here on a soapbox because I've been in that situation where it's just the last thing you want to do is talk to anybody because it doesn't really feel like you can. But I promise you, there is somebody out there that'll listen to you. Right? No matter what walk of life you may be, there's somebody that'll listen. Now I'm going to put some numbers floating up on the screen over here that you can take a reach out to, as well as link them in the description. And, you know, check in on yourself. Like, take care of yourself, kings and queens and everybody in between. And next time I'm going to be moving my car, and that's something I am incredibly hopeful for. So be safe.